All right, let's see. We're going live here. Not sure if this is working out the way I had planned, but we'll see how this does in a second. I'm not sure. Let me see here. All right, I think we're live. I believe we're live. I'm streaming. Oh, there we are. Crash Monkeys, what's going on, man? Glad to see you on. This is not easy to do. I don't know. It's funny. I almost prefer to struggle with the OBS. Here I am trying to set up. Um, awesome, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some new videos from you. But I'm trying to set up to just stream through YouTube, and I go through the classic setup, had everything ready to go, and then nothing. I don't know. There's no button to say go live, and so now I'm just streaming right through the mobile phone here. So hopefully that works out as planned. And then I got to throw some things on there. Hey, how's it going, digital asset guy? What's going on? Going to give it a start a few minutes late. Not going to cut out a few minutes early, but let me see if see what's going on the other stream here. Not sure if no, there he is. He's still on. All right, let me. I got to pick up my stream, make sure we're streaming good here, that there's no issue, and then I can actually participate in the chat. There we go. Oh, look at that. Okay, I was able to reconnect. I think I'm bad. There we go. I'm back on. I disconnected the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi over here is a little bit spotty. And so here we go. All right, can you guys all see me, hear me? Did I lose everybody? It's hard to tell. You guys want to throw up a comment? I'm trying to log in to see if I'm actually streaming here. And I'm not. Oh, there we are. Looks like I'm live. Can't tell that I'm live. I think it's live. Let's see. Everything's good? Okay. All right. Very cool. Awesome. All right. We're going to have a short discussion here. A lot of great things to talk about. Wanted to start off with. I don't really like this camera angle. The camera angle kind of sucks. But anyhow, so last night was over with Mr. B, XRP, and Sergeant Obi-Wan. Went out to dinner last night. That was actually, it was a lot of fun. It was awesome being able to meet up with some individuals from the digital asset community, from the XRP community, people that you normally engage with in a series of tweets, or as they come on to your video, you're on their content, whatever it might be. The amount of personal engagement is relatively limited, so it's actually refreshing to be able to sit across the table from somebody and have a conversation and talk about something of an investment space that you're passionate in. So I found that it was really nice. And so through the conversation, we had a number of great topics that came up. We discussed everything from what brought us to the digital asset space to begin with, and then really moving forward into a lot of in-depth discussion and conversation. So, hey Jim, what's going on? Good to see you on. So one of the topics that came up was had to do with how secure or how confident are you in actually holding your digital asset investment on an exchange, let's say in a cold storage with Coinbase or with Uphold or an exchange like that. I think that it was really interesting and really made me start thinking about that a little bit further, because it's something that I definitely concern myself with a lot. Hey, Greg, how's it going? Annalise, Mike Smith, getting people from around the world logging in on this early Saturday morning. So Yeah. So anyhow, I really started thinking about it, and when I think about utilizing the ledger, the ledger is definitely something that's functional from an early adopter perspective. I think we're willing to put up with and tolerate potentially a little bit more than what people are willing to put up with from a mainstream perspective. Let's see, Digital Asset Guy. How likely do you think a ledger is to be hacked? If uh, my opinion on that is to keep your ledger purchase directly from the ledger website. Get it direct, exactly what Jim said. Yeah, yeah. I obviously I think we all probably buy a ton of stuff from Amazon. Amazon is really the go-to for shopping nowadays. So I do buy a bunch of stuff on Amazon. My one concern every time I buy something on Amazon though is the authenticity of the product. If you have to concern yourself with the authenticity of a product, regardless of what it might be, you would think that especially when it comes to something like a ledger, even though it states that it's being and a lot of times you kind of get tricked when you're on Amazon. It looks like it's the store's managed by the manufacturer, and then you find out that it's not. But again, like Jim said, get something like that direct. Don't mess around with that. Um, eToro. Yep. So that's interesting. So here, the point of topic really then focused in, which exchange do you have the most confidence in, to hold digital asset? And then the other part of the conversation then went to even in let's call it real world in fiat, not in banking. If you're holding X amount of money in a bank, they only FDIC insure your money up to $250,000. Now, if something were to happen and you have more than that, you're only going to be again insured for up to that set amount, and so you're better off than really consolidating or not consolidating in one space. You want to make sure, or one bank, you want to make sure that you split up your holdings, across multiple different banks. So really, then the same should hold true when it comes to digital asset. You should be able to put some of your holdings in. You should be confident to be able to put it in a Coinbase. Let's say you should be confident to put it in an Uphold. In order for, and this is really the caveat, in order for there to be mainstream adoption, everybody has to have that confidence level. Until there's that type of confidence, I believe that people, it's going to be more difficult for us to see mainstream adoption. Um, I look different today. Yeah, I actually have a shirt on. So I've got a meeting at 9 o'clock. I'm using my cell phone. The image looks really bad. I'm looking at it's kind of a faded image. Sitting here in this room. There's the lighting sucks, and I'm realizing the camera angle should be a little bit higher. I'm coming at the camera angle a little bit lower, and it's not the most flattering angle to come at from a lower angle. But anyhow, so I started looking and thinking more about, is it okay, and if you're going to put your money onto a Coinbase or an Uphold, again, when will there be, proper insurance? Is there proper insurance at this point? Do we feel secure enough? I do hold on some of the exchanges. I hold on the ledger. So what's the right solution? And again, for me, I'm looking, specifically towards, what's it going to take for, mainstream adoption. So, um, digital asset. Let's see. What'd you say here? Do you think all of them are? Do you think all of them are hacked? I got a few of my buddies. I don't want any. Oh. Oh, you're talking about the from Amazon? I don't know. Go back, take a look at where they came from. I mean, that's a good question. I just think that, you definitely want to make sure that, wherever you're getting those ledgers from are coming directly from the source. So, I would return them to Amazon. If you bought them from Amazon, return them to Amazon. That would be my best advice. And I think Jim just said the same thing. Don't take the risk. So if you can return to Amazon, and then go to the ledger and get them from the ledger. If you're getting them as gifts, I'd be a little concerned about that. And that's, yeah, exactly. I think Jim's bringing up some really good points. So now now as we get into um, let's see here. All right, so and then now as we really drill down, I was thinking taking it a step further. The concept of the ledger is great. But you're really you're utilizing a hardware device to secure your holdings, and holding the hardware key. The same could then be available potentially for, let's say, a Coinbase, or I keep using those two because they're the most prevalent at this point in the U.S. Gemini, or whatever that exchange might be. You could then, and they could then, if they want to give you an extra layer of security, provide you with a hardware key device to take that secondary precaution, that the only way you can log into your account at that point would be to plug in your USB thumb drive, or have one that's NFC capable. If you're logging in from your mobile phone, you should be able to just tap on it and then easily access your digital asset on the exchange. So right now with through your mobile, obviously you're securing your app, but again, are they fully secured on their side? So so that's definitely concerns. So let's see here. Surfer 301. Look carefully to what eToro is and where they are based. Yep. So where is eToro based? And does eToro have any issue with hacking? Has eToro been hacked in the past? I think there's always going to be a little bit of concern. I definitely want to make sure, again, any of the exchanges that I want to work with, I want to make sure that they're on the up and up 100%. If you're not confident, even I remember in the beginning when I was when I first got into it, and you're registering for the exchanges, I was really concerned with the registering for different exchanges. And then, the first time I used Binance, even, I was worried about it because it was a Chinese exchange. And so I didn't want to provide so much detailed information that was going over to an organization entity that was based over in China, now based in Malta, but still utilizing that exchange, Bitstamp. I believe a lot of us that were in XRP earlier on utilized Bitstamp as a source for getting XRP, and that being based over in Europe, I was still concerned about it, but I had more confidence at the time in what was going on with Bitstamp than I did with Binance. And so that's something that is going to be definitely relevant as we move forward into full mainstream adoption. Obviously, times have changed. You look at a Binance, it's just mega organization, and you look around the world. Bitstamp got bought out, and so the growth of this space is really developing exponentially towards mainstream adoption, and making the environment more secure for the mainstream buyer. And so the mainstream retail buyer, whether they're going to go direct to an exchange, or whether it's going to go through their financial advisor, broker, whatever you might call it, that's going to be interesting. As that's what it's going to take. This is what everybody's really anticipating, is that it's going to move from the early adopter exchange and beyond. So Kraken, you know what? I also utilized Kraken in the beginning. Honestly, I haven't even logged back into it in about a year. So I can't really comment on Kraken. I remember trying to use it in the early stages, and I just found that the platform was a little bit sluggish, and I didn't like it. I didn't like using it, but again, I haven't been on it in about a year, so I can't really comment accurately on Kraken. So once I started really moving forward, and once Uphold it was introduced with the capability of buying XRP on there, then I utilized Uphold for other digital asset that wasn't available. I was using Binance, but between Coinbase and Uphold, now anyways, you cover a decent selection, but there's a lot more that then would be available. And I guess I don't know if there's any Gemini users here. Again, with Kraken, I don't know. That's a good one. So I'm not sure if anybody on here has any experience working with the Kraken exchange. Would be good to get some feedback. So, Annalise, I'm going to give you a wrench. A little bit of support. That's awesome. So yeah, guys, if you want to, hit the thumbs up button, that would be awesome. If you guys are new to the channel, you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. My format's a little bit off as I'm off site, and so the imagery and everything else comes in a little bit different here. Jerry Hall, how you doing? Good to see you. High fees, but a good exchange overall. All right, good to hear. I'm gonna have to check it out again just to get some experience on it. Mobile app wise, someone mentioned Abra. Let's see. My XRP is my Nano, Abra coins, and Binance for trading Annalise. Okay. So Uphold is what I use for Fiat Gateway. Yeah, I think what's amazing to me about Uphold is that you can really move your fiat currency into any other currency. I kind of like that idea, that if you wanted to put your money into euro, you can easily put your money into euro. If you want to put it into US dollars, regardless of if you have access to the Uphold. And I'm not sure how many countries Uphold is available to, but it's so easy to use. And now they have no transfer fees on XRP, and they're really doing a lot to support the community. And this, to me, what the big changes that we're seeing in this space, and we're going to start seeing, in my opinion, I say we're going to start seeing this coming together of fintech, high tech solution, moving away from the traditional banking entities. In terms of kind of the old way of doing things. Everything is becoming very app based. Everything is accessible online, which means that bank branches are going away. But if you look at like a Robinhood platform, I don't know, let me know if you guys have ever used Robinhood as an app for investing. I find that it's amazing because you can log into your E-Trade or any of those, and you're still paying a little bit higher stock trade fee. And then Robinhood came along, and they've been around for a number of years now, but they come along and they're crushing it, absolutely crushing it, and mainly because Robinhood, like yeah, Jerry, it's amazing. I mean, you go on and you pay, you can pay $6 a month, and every single trade is free. Now, how unbelievable is that? And so they're making their money based on what amount of money is being held and interest, and you go in and read about how they're making their money, but it just tells you how much money making or earning potential there is for these larger financial institutions, and every little fee that they charge us is just extra added revenue. They're already making a shit ton of money, and then every additional fee doesn't really need to be paid. And we're supporting, this kind of antiquated way of doing business, and it just isn't needed. Now, what's interesting about this, and Mr. B, XRP, when we were talking yesterday, we're talking about how our economy is really moving. And so as blockchain technology is adopted at a higher scale or a larger scale, we're going to see a lot of the industries potentially shrink in terms of employment opportunities. So let's say in banking, for instance, and maybe the old school, banking, brick and mortar banking guys, they're worried because, if we can do with significantly less people, if we don't need brick and mortar banking because we're moving more rapidly into a digital currency economy, that means that fiat currency is, at this point, isn't really relevant. The need for going into a branch, the need for using an ATM has really decreased exponentially over the past few years. Now with the rise of blockchain and cryptocurrency, it's going to speed up that progression, meaning that, from this point, how many people within that bank branch are truly needed. And so once you get rid of that layer, you get rid of a huge cost to those organizations. Now, an organization like Robinhood, Coinbase, Uphold, they're already lightning years ahead because they don't have that entire infrastructure to support, or that entire infrastructure that they have to, start getting rid of. So imagine, what the impact is on these larger financial institutions as they have to start letting people go. And that, we're going to start seeing a major shift in industries and in employment. So whether this is going to be in the banking industry, we talked about the real estate market a little bit yesterday. And so I think, there's so many different industries, healthcare, in logistics. I'm just going through, industry by industry, how will blockchain technology shift and change the employment structure and getting rid of the brick and mortar type, presence. Amazon, crushed brick and mortar stores, absolutely crushed them. But what we end up seeing, and this is the other side of it, is that we still need human interaction. Although we love the digital form of technology, we still want human interaction. At the end of the day, you still need to have someone to talk to. So even, in these different industries, there's going to have to be layers of people. Not everything can be automated. We can just do with a lot less of the human intervention interaction, which causes, a slowdown in the processes and everything else. So I think we have a huge amount of opportunity ahead of us. Now that then brings you, to a whole another conversation as we get into government and, why government also needs to adopt into blockchain from a transparency perspective of their expenditures and holding our governments accountable to tax dollars and the tax revenue they take in and where it's going. And at the same time, you look at the tax collector from a government perspective, what can we do there? And imagine how many people, if I look at the US, or you look at the IRS, how many people just sit at a desk are just completely useless, overall in the grander scheme of things that aren't needed yet, due to government employment, they're pretty much locked in and secure in their employment regardless. They don't operate it as a business and they don't really care to. But through transparent blockchain type technology that really simplifies a process, we can remove huge layers within government, which I think, is going to really have significant, reverberate significantly, throughout all industry, and so to me that, we're seeing these trends. Let me see here. If you're new to this channel, yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, Annalise, that's awesome. As Surfer, let's see, important point about uphold and having an account to where you can come to cashing out. Yep. The regulation that will come later next year, expecting that soon. No need for armored trucks. Brinks. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, Mike. That again, another full shift in an industry that is going to go away. So if you look at all of those armored vehicles that are moving, fiat currency around, won't there's going to be some need to them to, I guess maybe there'll be a shift in their business model, protecting in a different methodology, and maybe they need to go more high tech. Maybe we'll see the transition to where, I don't know, paperwork, or, imagine you still need them. So let's say you want to securely transfer a key to somebody, or, and so maybe they're still going to take, instead you don't feel this, the secure nature of sending something online. I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box. You want to send a digital asset key to, access an account. You're still going to want to use some secure method to move that if it's access to an account that has, hundreds or millions of dollars in it, or tens of millions. It'd be interesting to see, if that, if you need a hardware key in order to access an account, although you're sending it, I don't know, just thinking outside the box. So let's see. Imagine an armored car destruction derby. How cool would that be? See, I would love that. That'd be like you go to the monster truck rally and you see the armored trucks instead. That'd be really cool. What time is it? All right. I'm gonna go here probably till, maybe for somewhere between like 5 to 10 minutes. Just cover a few more topics. I've got a meeting I got to run to at 9 o'clock. So let's see here. Now this is important here. Now, and this kind of outside of the digital asset space. I just want, someone posted this, someone shared something with me when it came to China and China tariffs, and I thought this was important because there's a lot of misinformation across the media, especially when it comes to this supposed trade war that we're entering into with China, and really a leveling of the playing field with two large powers. So right now, if you look at it, the U.S. and China already have a 10% tariff on goods. So now, the impact is that China's saying, well, in this trade war, their intent, is to raise tariffs to 25%. This is in retaliation to the U.S. raising tariffs to 25%. But the tariffs already existed. The problem is that China, manipulates their currency on one side to make their currency less valuable to boost their exports through that currency manipulation. At the same time, China levies, higher tariffs on, incoming product, but as they also manipulate their currency lower, it makes it more difficult for the people in China to then import product, because it makes the imported product more expensive. So there's this imbalance. Now I'm just looking at some of the notes that he had sent over to me, but China's planning on increasing tariffs in the tune of 25% on about $60 billion of incoming goods to the U.S., putting 25% tariff on $200 billion worth of goods. At the end of the day, it's all going to wash out. I have full confidence that these two entities, the United States and China, are going to work out a trade agreement that's more fair and balanced. That's also protecting, from the U.S. perspective, has to protect U.S. economic interest. From China's perspective, they need to protect Chinese interest, but there also has to be a clear has to be clear that one side can't continuously manipulate their economy or their currencies in order to have more favorable trade status, in terms of being more favorable on the side of on the side of the companies that are then buying and selling, etc. But anyhow, I just thought it was interesting because this is so important right now. As we really focus in on the economy at large. And again, I'm not overly concerned about it. I'm very optimistic actually. I look at going into this trade negotiation and the trade war as something with positive outcome. I think anytime you have two parties that sit down and if there's a little bit of animosity between the parties, it needs to be hashed out. And so this is the form it's being hashed out. Unfortunately, the media will say whatever the heck they want to say, regardless if it's factual or not. And they're not in the inside dealings of the negotiation at all times. And so they're just spreading their own opinions and conjuncture and whatever. So, but I'm glad that this is actually coming together. So, let's see. All right, let's go down this list. A few other things that I wanted to go over, and this is something else that came up. And so I'm continuously focused on what is it going to take for mainstream adoption. Hey, Omar, what's going on? Glad to see you on. So, for mainstream adoption, there's little bits of good news that are continuously dropping. And as we observe, we can identify that these larger financial institutions have been plotting and planning the adoption of cryptocurrency and the digital asset space for a couple years. And as we go back and track, you can look and see that there's even many of the big banks like Bank of America and others had started even back as far as 2014 submitting for patents in the digital asset space and the blockchain space primarily for a specific technology. Now that means that they were aware and already plotting and planning their entry point, and they probably look back and say, if this develops, this is what we're going to do. Now that if this develops part has come true, now the next steps of their plan have to be implemented, because if this area didn't develop and went the opposite way, let's say through we had the big boom in end of 17, beginning of 18, and then we've had this bear market. If the bear market would have plummeted even further, but I'm sure their financial wizards on their side knew that it wouldn't, because they see the mass adoption. Hey, Crypto Bird Dog, how's it going? Good to see you on. If they see the mass adoption of the blockchain technology across the board is beneficial, all of these banking entities were plotting and planning for multiple outcome scenarios. Now that the one scenario of full adoption is coming to fruition, we're starting to see them jump on board. So, so when we look at now, this is important. So there's two primary things to me that really are critical. One, I believe we talked about the other day, was Coinbase, or the state of New York giving basically their permission at this point for XRP to be traded and purchased by residents of New York through the Coinbase exchange. Now, to me, that's significant because New York is extremely strict. They have their BIT license. Without a BIT license, you can't trade. But the fact, and really the entire financial sector, what New York does, everybody else does. They follow. They fall in line. New York is the kingpin. So as New York was the financial center, the financial epicenter, as New York engages and allows the residents, this means that they've now accepted. This also is good news, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's 100%, but I believe if New York is opening the doors for a Coinbase or any other to trade in XRP, that also really puts the whole conversation of it being a security to rest. It also shows that the state of New York is now accepting that the digital asset space is here to stay and growing at a rapid pace. Now, if we take a one step further in news, we have, it's Wall Street time. Oh, yeah. And so if you take it one step further, I've never heard of this bank, but it's out there. So the bank is called M.Y Safra Bank. So so there's another organization called SFOX or SFOX or SFOX. Anyhow, so they had a blog post on SFOX. SFOX is I'd never heard of them either until I saw this article. But SFOX is a crypto asset prime dealer and trade platform. And so in the blog, they had announced their relationship with this bank, this M.Y Safra Bank, and why this relationship was so important. It's a bank in New York, this Safra Bank, and why it was important that SFOX is partnering with or put a relationship together with the Safra Bank. It's that the Safra Bank is going to provide the traders, and these are typically larger institutional type traders on the SFOX, giving them access to FDIC insured deposit accounts to securely hold their funds. Now, this means that SFOX, it's again a crypto asset prime dealer and trade platform, will now have access to FDIC insurance and security through this MY Safra Bank. And so that is huge. That's huge news. Now, there was a quote that I pulled out of there. Now, remember, FDIC insurance only covers up to a value of $250,000. So, and this becomes, important for those individuals. Again, as we talked about in the beginning, it becomes important for those individuals that have holdings of more than 250,000. You want to make sure you keep them in multiple accounts so that you're covered 100% up to that 250. But again, the FDIC insurance is really huge news, and again, a step in the direction of mainstream adoption. Now, the CEO from the bank said that the Safra Bank's partnership, there's a quote from the CEO of the bank. He said, Safra's bank partnership with SFOX underscores our commitment to spearheading the best solutions within the newest domain of finance. So you can underscore that. You can read into that any way you want. But again, they want to make sure they have the best solutions within the newest domain of finance. They've identified this as the newest domain of finance. That's an important space. And you see these partnerships are growing at a rapid pace right now. So again, let's keep focusing on mainstream adoption. I'll keep bringing news and information that I find and put my spin on my opinion on how I see this developing in our space, whether it's through government regulatory concern or information like this. I think it's interesting to talk about it. I think it's important we talk about it because this is what's going to lead to mainstream adoption, or this is what is leading to mainstream adoption for the digital asset space. So yeah, so that's great, right, Omar? It's amazing. You couldn't, so it's insane that even like with Uphold, Uphold, I forget when they got their permission to actually operate. Was it Uphold or Robinhood had issue in New York? Uphold had issue in New York. So many, just even from a trading platform perspective, they have to go through a lot to gain access to the residents in the state of New York. So, but anyhow, with that, guys, I've got to wrap this up. It was awesome, having you guys on. Really appreciate it. I've got to get to this meeting at 9:00, and we will get back on Monday evening at 10 p.m. Trying to set up a chat right now with Bob Moneybags, Jungle, and Chip. Hopefully, we're going to pull that together, and we're all going to get on together. And so I know we've been kind of chatting back and forth, and then I want to get back on with DNI again. And there was a ton of things for us to talk about, and others within the community. So there's going to be a lot more of our multiple interview type chats coming up. So anyhow, again, thank you all for being on. It was awesome. Definitely look forward to seeing you guys on Monday evening at 10 o'clock. Remember, 9 p.m. with DNI, 10 p.m. HODL Report, and then Tuesday, Chip comes on at 10 p.m. And obviously, if you guys know DNI, he's on Monday through Friday. So again, looking forward to seeing you guys then. Have an awesome day today, over the weekend. Have a great weekend, and we'll check you guys out later. I got to figure out how to stop the streaming from my phone. Not even sure if that's possible. So there's no button on my phone to stop the stream. So anyhow, all right, guys.